The hushed atmosphere of Christie's main auction room shattered the moment Victoria Reynolds, their head curator, declared my grandmother's painting a forgery. 300 art collectors, dealers, and specialists erupted in whispers as my family's reputation hung in the balance. I'm Dr. Sarah Chun, 35, an art conservator specializing in advanced imaging techniques. The painting in question, Garden at Dawn by renowned Chinese-American artist Thomas Chun, had hung in my grandmother's living room for 50 years. More importantly, Thomas Chun was my grandfather, though he died before I was born. The brushwork is skilled, Victoria continued, her British accent crisp with authority. But spectral analysis shows pigments that weren't available in 1947 when Thomas Chun allegedly painted this work. She gestured to the luminous garden scene, where morning light seemed to dance through misty trees. It was my grandfather's signature style, a blend of traditional Chinese landscape techniques with modern American impressionism. Furthermore, Victoria added, there's no provenance documentation connecting this piece to Thomas Chun's known works. We must regrettably withdraw it from today's auction. The whispers grew louder. Thomas Chun's paintings rarely came to market, and this one had been expected to fetch millions. More than the money, though, this was about my family's legacy. Actually, I stepped forward from the audience, my heels clicking on the polished floor. I have something you need to see. I held up a large manila envelope. Results from the Advanced Imaging Laboratory at the Metropolitan Museum. Victoria's perfectly maintained composure cracked slightly. The Met's imaging lab was the gold standard in art authentication, using technology that could peer beneath a painting's surface to reveal its secrets. And you are Dr. Sarah Chun, Thomas Chun's granddaughter and a specialist in multispectral imaging analysis. I handed the envelope to the auction house's technical director. You might want to put these on the screen. The first image appeared on the large display behind the auction podium, an X-ray view of the painting that made the crowd gasp. Beneath the serene garden scene lay another painting entirely, a dramatic portrayal of the Japanese surrender ceremony aboard the USS Missouri. That's impossible, Victoria breathed. That would mean that this painting has two originals, one hidden beneath the other, I confirmed. Both by Thomas Chun, both historically significant for very different reasons. But there was more to this story, much more. As the technical director prepared to show the next set of images, I thought about what my grandmother had told me on her deathbed 6 months ago. About why my grandfather had hidden one masterpiece beneath another. Because this wasn't just about authenticating a painting. This was about exposing a 50-year-old government secret. Before you show the next image, Victoria interjected, we should clear the room of witnesses? I smiled grimly. That's exactly what they tried to do in 1947, when they forced my grandfather to hide his most important work. The second image appeared on screen. Infrared scanning had revealed text hidden in the underlying painting, including a date and a military classification code. The audience's whispers turned to murmurs of confusion. Art collectors leaned forward in their seats, sensing that this auction had just become something far more significant than a simple authentication dispute. Your grandfather was a war artist, Victoria said slowly, but his official records show he only painted landscapes and portraits during his service. Official records can lie, I replied. But paintings? They preserve truth, if you know how to look beneath the surface. I nodded to the technical director to proceed with the next image. Because what lay beneath my grandfather's peaceful garden wasn't just another painting. It was evidence. In 1947, I explained to the riveted audience, Thomas Chun witnessed something during the surrender ceremony that certain people wanted kept secret. Something about who was really present that day and what was really agreed to. The next image resolved on screen, showing details that had been hidden for half a century. Details that would force a re-examination of not just art history, but military history as well. Victoria's face had lost all color. This auction needs to be suspended immediately. Actually, a new voice spoke from the back of the room. It needs to proceed. Dr. James Martinez, the Met's head of conservation, strode down the center aisle. Because this painting isn't just art. It's essential historical evidence that's been hiding in plain sight for 50 years. The audience was completely silent now, watching as Dr. Martinez joined me at the podium. He'd been my mentor, the one who'd taught me how to use imaging technology to uncover art's hidden secrets. But even he hadn't known what we'd find when I brought him my grandmother's painting. Ladies and gentlemen, he addressed the crowd, What we're about to show you will change our understanding of not just Thomas Chen's work, but of a crucial moment in World War II history. As the next image loaded, I thought about my grandfather, who'd chosen to hide truth in plain sight, protecting it with layers of paint until technology could reveal it to the world. Because sometimes the most important stories aren't the ones on the surface. They're the ones waiting to be discovered, one layer at a time. The next image that appeared on screen silenced even the whispers. The infrared scan revealed detailed faces in the hidden painting. Faces that weren't supposed to be at the surrender ceremony, including one that would rewrite history books. The man in the corner, Dr. Martinez pointed, is General Zhang Wei of the Chinese Nationalist Army. Official records state he was in Nanking that day. But Thomas Chen painted him here, on the USS Missouri, watching the surrender. Victoria Reynolds had given up trying to stop the presentation. She stood frozen, staring at the revealed image with a mixture of professional fascination and growing alarm. My grandfather didn't just paint what he saw, I explained. He documented everything with a photographer's precision. Every face, every medal, every document on that table. Including, I nodded to the technical director to zoom in, this folder, partially hidden under the surrender papers. The enhanced image showed a document title in clear detail. Protocol 17 Pacific Theater Asset Distribution. That protocol doesn't exist in any official records, Dr. Martinez continued. But thanks to Thomas Chen's meticulous attention to detail, we now know it was there. A secret agreement about the distribution of seized Japanese assets, including art treasures and gold reserves. The audience erupted in excited discussion. Art historians frantically took notes. Several people were already on their phones, presumably calling colleagues or editors. But why hide it? Victoria found her voice. Why paint over such an important historical record? I pulled out my grandmother's letter, the one she'd given me along with the painting, because they gave him no choice. The letter, dated just before her death, explained everything. Dearest Sarah, your grandfather knew the risks of documenting what he saw that day. The secret protocol divided billions in seized assets among certain officials, hidden from public record. When they discovered his painting, they gave him an ultimatum: destroy it or face charges of espionage. But Thomas was clever. Instead of destroying the evidence, he preserved it beneath another masterpiece. He chose a peaceful garden scene, a place of reflection and truth, knowing that someday technology would advance enough to reveal what lay beneath. The garden itself contains clues. Each flower, each shadow corresponds to elements in the hidden painting. He created a map for future investigators, trusting that someone would eventually understand. That someone is you, my dear. Your work in art conservation, your expertise in imaging technology. This isn't coincidence. You've spent your career preparing to reveal your grandfather's final testimony. Use the truth wisely. Grandmother. Dr. Martinez stepped forward again. The technical evidence is unambiguous. Both paintings are original Thomas Chen works. The pigments your analysis flagged, Ms. Reynolds, are actually from the underlying painting. The garden scene uses materials completely consistent with 1947. But there was more. The imaging had revealed something else. Something that explained why certain people had been so desperate to keep this painting hidden. The protocol document, I continued, includes a list of signatures. Names of officials who profited from this secret agreement, including ancestors of some very prominent people in this room. Several auction attendees shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others sat straighter, suddenly more invested in the proceedings. This isn't just about art authentication, Dr. Martinez declared. This is about historical justice. The assets redistributed under Protocol 17 included artworks looted from multiple countries. Works that are still missing today. I pulled up another image, a detailed scan of the protocol list visible in the painting. My grandfather documented every name, every amount, every destination. He created a roadmap for tracking down these lost treasures. Victoria Reynolds had moved closer to examine the technical data. Her professional skepticism was transforming into scholarly excitement. The implications for art provenance research are staggering. More than that, I added, this evidence opens the door for restitution claims. Countries and families who lost priceless cultural artifacts now have proof of what happened to them. The next hour brought more revelations. The imaging showed details that connected to other mysteries: missing artworks, disputed provenances, collections that had appeared suddenly in private hands after the war. Thomas Chen's hidden painting wasn't just a historical document. It was a key to unlocking dozens of unsolved art world mysteries. The auction house's legal team huddled in urgent discussion. This wasn't just about selling a painting anymore. This was about exposing long-buried secrets that could affect major collections worldwide. The auction will proceed, Victoria finally announced, but with full disclosure of the painting's historical significance and the evidence it contains. The bidding, when it resumed, was intense. Museums, historical societies, and private collectors all recognized the dual importance of the piece, both as a Thomas Chen masterpiece and as a crucial historical document. In the end, the painting sold for $12 million to the National Gallery, which promised to make it the centerpiece of a new exhibition about art's role in preserving historical truth. The aftermath transformed multiple fields. Art historians gained new insights into post-war art movements. Legal scholars used the evidence to help resolve decades-old restitution claims. Government historians began re-examining official records of the surrender ceremony. My grandfather's hidden testimony forced a broader conversation about how art preserves truth when official documents fail. Museums worldwide began using advanced imaging to examine their own collections, searching for similar hidden histories. 6 months later, I stood in the National Gallery, watching visitors examine both versions of the painting. The garden scene displayed alongside high-resolution scans of the hidden surrender ceremony. "Your grandfather was a genius," Dr. Martinez said, joining me. "He didn't just preserve historical evidence. He created a time capsule that could only be opened when technology caught up to his vision." The exhibition had sparked a new field of study, the intersection of art conservation and historical documentation. Students were learning not just about artistic techniques, but about how art could serve as a witness to history. Victoria Reynolds, who'd become a passionate advocate for advanced authentication techniques, often brought her staff to study the painting. "It changed everything," she told them. "How we verify art, how we understand provenance, how we view the relationship between art and truth." The protocol list led to the recovery of several lost masterpieces, returned at last to their rightful owners. More importantly, it sparked new international agreements about cultural property and the importance of transparent documentation. My grandmother's letter now sat in the gallery's archives, alongside my grandfather's military records and the technical imaging data. Together, they told a story not just about art, but about courage, justice, and the power of truth to survive suppression. Thomas Chen's garden scene remained beautiful, perhaps more so now that viewers understood its dual purpose. Each flower, each shadow, took on new meaning as visitors learned how they mapped to the hidden image beneath. A year after the auction, I received an invitation to speak at an international conference on art authentication and historical justice. The title of my keynote, "Layers of Truth: How Art Preserves What Documents Deny." My grandfather's painting had done more than survive authentication. It had changed how we think about art's role in preserving historical truth. Each layer of paint held meaning. The visible beauty of the garden, the hidden testimony beneath, and the marriage of art and justice that connected them. In the end, the curator who'd called the painting fake had helped reveal its deepest authenticity. Because sometimes the truest art isn't what we see on the surface. It's the story waiting to be discovered, preserved in layers of paint and courage, ready to speak when the world is finally ready to listen. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.